Welcome back to the 17 News at Sunrise podcast, where we share your news on your schedule.
Working in the spirit of the Golden Empire, this is 17 News at Sunrise.
Good morning. Right now at 5, the first presidential debate of 2020 is being called very unpresidential, with name-calling, yelling, and the candidates talking over each other. We'll have a recap and reaction this morning.
California continues to burn this morning as more people are dying and homes and businesses are going up in flames. We'll have a look at the progress firefighters are making as California remains in a state of emergency.
Today, Compassion Corner will be the site of free COVID-19 testing. Why public health officials ask that everyone, regardless of symptoms, come down and get tested. This is Wednesday, September 30th, 2020. Good morning, it's 5 a.m. Good to have you with us. I'm Maddie Jansen alongside Alex Fisher.
And 17 News is your local election headquarters, and our top story this morning, reactions from last night's heated presidential debate.
Embarrassing, disgraceful, a train wreck. Those are just some of the words being used to describe the debate. Tracy Potts is in Washington this morning with highlights of what happened and what didn't.
Alex and Maddie, good morning. Good morning, everyone. There was a clear strategy on both sides. The president trying to drive a wedge between Biden and the more progressive members of his party. And the Biden team says they practiced, if things got heated, for him to ignore the president and just look directly into the camera and talk to you.
I'll be honest, it's a very important question. Try to be honest.
It was a debate like America has never seen, an absolute free-for-all at times. 90 minutes of constant interruptions, with Fox News moderator Chris Wallace losing control.
Gentlemen, I hate to raise my voice, but I see it seems to be, why shouldn't I be different than the two of you?
The tone between President Trump and Democratic nominee Joe Biden often combative.
Don't ever use the word smart with me. Don't ever use that word.
Oh, give me a break.
Because you know what?
The president went after Biden's son, Hunter.
He was thrown out, dishonorably discharged.
That's not true. He wasn't dishonorably.
Cocaine use. And he didn't have a job until you became vice president.
Questions about President Trump's Supreme Court nominee devolved into a hashtag.
Will you shut up, man? Listen,
Shut up, man, trending on Twitter. There was name-calling on both sides.
Everybody knows he's a liar. You're the worst president America has ever had.
Hey,
Come
Joe,
on.
let me just tell you, Joe, I've done more in 47 months. I've done more than you've done in 47 years, Joe.
The moderator trying to draw out differences on COVID, the economy, the president's taxes.
I paid $38 million 1 year. I paid $27 million.
Show us your tax
1 year.
returns.
I went. You'll see it as soon as it's finished. You'll see it.
The president agreeing to call out white supremacist groups, but then struggling to name one.
Well, then do it, sir.
Say it. Do it. Say it. Do you want to call him? What do you want to call him? Give me a name. Give me a name.
Biden repeatedly trying to distance himself from the left in a debate that struggled for substance. At the end of the debate, both candidates were asked, will you accept the election results? Biden said yes. The president said if he sees evidence of ballots being manipulated, no. I'm Tracy Potts, 17 News.
And this truly was a debate unlike anything we've ever seen before.
17's Eitan Wallace joins us now with a look at how this compares to previous debates. Eitan?
Well, Maddie and Alex, the first televised presidential debate took place in 1960. And as you're about to see, it set the tone for what was clearly intended to be a dialogue on substance and, believe it or not, respect. A stark contrast to what we saw last night.
Will you shut up, man? Listen, who is on your list, Joe? Who's on your list?
Right. Gentlemen, I think
this is so
unprecedented.
Unpresidential. That's one way to label Tuesday night's debate. A debate that came with a display of insults from the very start.
You're the worst president America has ever had.
Hey,
Come
Joe,
on.
You graduated either the lowest or almost the lowest in your class. Don't ever use the word smart with me.
You get the final word, Mr.
Well, it's hard to get any word in with this clown. Excuse me, this
Hey, let me just say,
While this debate touched on the issues facing the nation, this was a far cry from the first televised presidential debate 60 years ago.
Discussion of issues in the current political campaign by the two major candidates for the presidency.
Republican Richard Nixon went head-to-head against Democrat John F. Kennedy in what was a dialogue that did not include interruptions and focused on the issues.
This is a powerful country, but I think it could be a more powerful country.
The candidates disagreed on several policies, but they were not shy about saying when they did agree.
The things that Senator Kennedy has said, many of us can agree with.
When there was disagreement, it did not include name-calling.
I know Senator Kennedy feels as deeply about these problems as I do. But our disagreement is not about the goals for America, but only about the means to reach those goals.
For the next 3 presidential elections, there were no debates. But in 1976, they returned, and eventually, a former movie star took the stage, adding some comedy to the mix.
I am not going to exploit, for political purposes, my opponent's youth and inexperience.
Over time, opponents took more serious jabs at each other.
He'd been a senator for 20 years. He voted to increase taxes 98 times.
I think Governor Romney maybe hasn't spent enough time looking at how our military works.
Still, nothing like Tuesday night.
That is absolutely not true.
You're
doing it.
You're going to
Not
have
true.
Gentlemen. I hate to raise my voice, but it seems to me, why should I be different than the two of you?
Now the big question, Eitan, is, why was this debate last night so different from what we've seen in the past?
Well, Alex and Maddie, the really interesting thing is if you talk to members on both of these tickets, supporters on both sides, they will tell you this election is all about the soul of this country, the future of this country. Both sides truly believe that whoever wins, the country is going to be changed forever. And so as a result, each ticket saying that if the other side wins, well, America will never be the same. And therefore, we should not be surprised of how last night went. Each side really going after the other, really trying to take the other side down.
Yeah, another big question this morning. Who won the debate last night? And really, I think the big point I've heard said a few times is that it's the people who are watching, maybe wanting something of substance, who lost, unfortunately.
Indeed, and even what I've heard some people who were, believe it or not, there still are some undecided people, some of those people saying America lost.
Thank you very much.
And we've got 2 more presidential debates, coming up next month. So
yeah, 2 more.
Well,
still got more.
And we caught up with members from both political parties around town to get local reactions to the debate.
Yeah, roughly 30 people attended this Kern County GOP watch party at Infinity of Bakersfield. 17 News Republican political analyst Kathy Abernathy helped organize the event. She believes the president did well.
I thought the president did an excellent job talking about what he had done for the economy that COVID stopped, but now we're getting out of it. It was very clear Joe Biden is all for shutting down the economy again. Now that's just going to destroy, as President Trump said, more lives.
And this group of Democratic women gathered at a private home in Northeast Bakersfield to watch the debate. They felt Biden came out victorious.
That is the worst excuse for a presidential debate that I have ever seen in my life. And what was so painful for me is to see a president of the United States of America be so disrespectful, be so dishonest, and encourage white supremacists to stand by. Dear Lord, I'm really worried for our democracy.
The next presidential debate is scheduled for October 15th, but a week before then, the candidates for vice president will square off. That's next week on October 7th. All right, let's send it over to Alyssa. Let's take a look at your forecast. Another big controversy. Alyssa, we saw it's a triple digits yesterday. What is going on?
I know, heating things up in the weather department as well. Not quite as controversial though, but still. Temperatures yesterday soaring into the triple digits. Will we do it again today, you ask? Well, let's look at it right now. 69 degrees here in Bakersfield, 50 in Tehachapi, 59 in Lake Isabella, 54 in Fraser Park, 64 in Ridgecrest. Tuesday's high temperature a whopping 103, 2 degrees shy of tying the record. Now, today, not as hot. We'll look for the smoke to keep temperatures down a little bit more today. Meanwhile, along the coastline, though, look at all of those heat advisories and heat warnings. So they will continue to watch for heat along the coast today. Meanwhile, this morning, looking for temperatures here around 69 degrees at 7 a.m. I'm forecasting mid-90s today. I think that the smoke is going to keep temperatures down. Now, if that doesn't happen, we could be into into the upper 90s like we saw yesterday. I don't think we'll hit the triple digits today. In the mountains, we will be into the mid-80s this afternoon. So everything really dependent on how much smoke we see roll into the valley today. We'll talk much more about that in your complete pinpoint forecast.
All right, Alyssa, thanks so much. Now to the coronavirus update here in Kern County. 54 new cases were reported by Public Health yesterday and no new deaths. The total case number now stands at more than 32,000 in the county. More than 10,000 people are recovering from the virus at home, while 91 people are receiving treatment in the hospital. 369 lives have been lost to this virus since the beginning of the pandemic back in March. 28 people have died this month alone. 137 people died last month.
New this morning, it was a tragedy reported as a 2-year-old boy who accidentally shot a woman. But the sheriff's office now tells us they're investigating other possibilities as well. 17th Karen Waugh has the details from the shooting that happened Sunday morning.
It just doesn't make a lot of sense.
It's a shooting that's been reported as an accident. The sheriff's office even released a statement saying so. And word spread.
At first they thought it was a gentleman that shot the woman, and then I want to say about maybe 2 hours later the story changed. It turned out to be a child that was playing with a gun. It was an accident.
But some witnesses don't believe it was just an accident caused by improper gun storage.
I do not think that child shot that guy, that lady. I don't believe it.
April Kolstad rushed next door when she heard the shot. Immediately, she noticed a few things off.
It was obvious that the exit wound was her forehead. It was completely blown open. It looks so execution style.
From the size of the handgun she saw, April was also confused how a 2-year-old would have the strength to fire it without any injuries.
And what she also mentioned when she picked him up, he smelled real good and he was clean and had a real clean diaper on and like he had just had a bath. I would think he would have some blood on him because there was a lot of blood.
And what she found most suspicious, a man who grabbed the gun, then drove off from the scene immediately. When we asked KCSO, they confirmed they found out who the man is, but they have not been able to locate him yet.
And they pulled the video cameras, the footage, and they saw the guy leave, but they couldn't make out the license plate.
KCSO says they're still treating this incident as an accidental shooting. Detectives are also investigating what type of gun this was and who owns it. The department says there could be potential charges for unsafe storage of a firearm.
A discharge of a firearm, especially when causing of an injury, that's a 3-day notice for sure.
With the eviction, the family of the woman shot has spent the past few days moving out of the apartment. KCSO confirms the woman remains in critical but stable condition in the hospital. In Oildale, Karen Waugh, 17 News.
And it's important to remember best practices when it comes to gun ownership and how to be a responsible gun owner in order to protect your loved ones. We spoke to a sheriff's office crime prevention specialist about how to lay down ground rules in your household.
If they know the proper procedures, if they know what they should do with it, that's a layer of protection for you and your child. Safety. If you have a gun in your home, you should talk to anyone and everyone that's in your home, especially your kids, and make your own rules.
In addition to laying down the rules for your household, Elvie Martinez says parents need to make sure they're using proper storage procedures to avoid potential dangers. She also says that means keeping your guns locked, either with a gun lock that prevents firing off the trigger or in a gun safe, and storing ammunition in a different area than the gun, or even better, do all three.
Yeah, I've heard experts say you need to not only gun-proof your home, you need to gun-proof your children in case they ever come across them at, a friend's house or a grandparent's house where it is not stored as safely or properly as you maybe store yours.
I think that's very important. It's not just your home. It's other people's homes that your kids could be going into as well. A Garces Memorial High School's graduate is strapping on his running shoes in honor of those battling cancer, including his mother. Jack Tobias plans to run a 12-hour marathon by himself at Sam Tobias Field at Garces on Saturday. That field was named after Jack's great-grandfather. His mother, 52-year-old Susan Echeverry Tobias, was diagnosed with breast cancer 3 years ago, and since then, Tobias has been fundraising not just for her, but for anyone suffering from cancer.
All the cancer survivors, all the families that have been affected by cancer, everybody who's fighting cancer right now, and just want them to know that they're not in the fight alone.
The money raised will go to the Kern County Cancer Foundation. Tobias is asking for either a flat donation or a donation per mile. To donate, you can visit our website, kget.com, and click on the hot link icon. Now to the latest on the wildfires burning throughout the state. The fires raging across Northern California, claiming at least 3 more lives. And California now is in a state of emergency. 3 fires now merging into one in wine country as hundreds of structures have been lost. More than 12,000 structures are threatened this morning. The city of Calistoga has been completely evacuated, as well as parts of Santa Rosa. Crews are also across the state battling 5 of the 6 largest wildfires in state history. One of them, the largest single fire in state history, the Creek Fire east of Fresno. It has grown to more than 305,000 acres and is 44% contained this morning. Meantime, the SQF Complex Fire burning east of Porterville continues to pump smoke into our mountain communities. It is at more than 152,000 acres and 58% contained. And these unprecedented wildfires spurring action from California emergency management leaders asking President Trump for another major disaster declaration.
The amount of fire that we have along the landscape of the state is probably the most that I have seen in my time.
Emergency management leader and Cal OES director Mark Giarducci says this year is unlike anything he has experienced before. For the second time in a month, California is requesting another presidential major disaster declaration for these devastating wildfires. With dozens of major fires burning since August, officials say 20 other states have joined the fight throughout out-of-state and federal mutual aid systems.
We have reported on a number of missing children in Kern County over the last month, and a local group got together to draw attention to those who haven't returned home. Missing Smiles of Kern County hosted a candlelight vigil last night at Jefferson Park. They were joined by the families of 2 missing teens, Gabriella Martin and Kendall Kellick, who have a message, and they have a message for their missing loved ones.
I just want to say, Bells, we miss you, and we love you, and we just want you to come home. Just call us if you can.
We have a lot of people here supporting you, wanting to know where you're at, because we love you. And I may not be perfect, but I know I've made mistakes, baby, but come home and we can fix anything.
Organizers say 9 teenagers have gone missing or run away since the beginning of the month, and 4 are still missing.
Award-winning architect and Air Force veteran David Young Milazzo, whose iconic buildings can be seen throughout Bakersfield, has died. Milazzo died September 19th at the age of 75. According to an obituary by his family, Milazzo was forced to give up his lifelong passion for architecture as he battled Parkinson's disease and Lewy body dementia. Among the many local structures he designed, Houchin Blood Bank on Truxton Avenue, the Stockdale Tower, Transamerica Plaza, Kern County Library Southeast, and our own KGT building on L Street. In lieu of flowers, the family asked that contributions be made to a fund established in Milazzo's memory to benefit the architectural program at Bakersfield College.
Of protests took place outside Bakersfield Police Headquarters last weekend in response to the decision in Kentucky not to charge police in the death of Breonna Taylor. Local Black Lives Matter organizers hosted a downtown rally, and counter-protesters showed up as well. 4 people were arrested over the course of the 2 nights. 17's Robert Price has this report.
It's been a common refrain in this year of protests. The other side is busing in troublemakers. Well, that may have happened in some cities around the country this year, but last weekend in Bakersfield, all signs point to the likelihood that this was strictly homegrown. That doesn't mean the organizers of the protests and counter-protests in Bakersfield Friday and Saturday knew everyone they were marching with. The weekend protests got loud and, in at least one documented case, violent, but BPD was there in force to keep it from getting worse. Most of the crowd packed up and left Friday night at about 8 p.m. when police declared an unlawful assembly and ordered them to disperse. 2 who didn't were arrested. 31-year-old Gideon Alday, a former Kern County Sheriff's deputy, convicted in 2016 on domestic violence charges, and 37-year-old Jared Haug. Haug, an art teacher at CSUB, said the gathering did not strike him as an unlawful assembly, so he stuck around.
And I had begun to think of the police response to the Black Lives Matter movement as
what I've been thinking of as the criminalization of grief. What are the long-term effects of not only denying justice to the Black members of our community when they are killed at the hands of the police, but denying, again, the ability to express grief and anger and sadness at that denial.
BPD spokesman Sergeant Robert Pear said the intent of organizers on both sides might have been worthy, but people on the fringes hurt their intended message.
I think that there's people with messages that are important to them on both sides that are capable of talking about those messages in a way that is conducive to creating dialogue. I think there's also some folks that are involved for the wrong reasons, and because maybe some of these groups aren't super organized, that those individuals get involved and can kind of derail both groups' messages.
Lisa Kendrick, who created the Facebook group Giving Back to the Badge, said her group was just there to show support for law enforcement.
The line is crossed when you start tagging our police departments with all cops are bastards, police should die, things like that.
Lisa Marie, as she's known on Facebook, said she and like-minded people stayed after the protests were over and cleaned up graffiti that had been sprayed on the side of BPD headquarters.
That's why we counter protest with cleaning everything up, cleaning up their messes, everything they destroy, we put it back together.
There was, however, clearly some bad behavior on the part of those counter-protesters, as Kendrick acknowledged.
Actually, we don't know who those people were. They actually showed up and started violence, and we actually were all posting in our groups about them and trying to figure out who they were and where they came from. Yeah. So they're giving us a bad name when we have no idea who they are. They're like the guy with the Jesus shirt. I don't know if you saw that, yelling homophobic slurs. Nobody knows who he is.
It wasn't just the counter-protesters. The following night, police arrested 2 people whose sympathies were apparently with the Black Lives Matter group. Zandia Beltran Gomez, 28, was arrested after a brief scuffle on charges including vandalism and assaulting an officer with a baseball bat, as well as possession of brass knuckles and a switchblade. No one was seriously hurt. Black Lives Matter supporters were trying to organize a show of support for Beltran Gomez at her Wednesday afternoon court hearing. And David McMahon, 32, was arrested and charged with brandishing a firearm miles away from the protest on Hageman Road. But police said it might have been connected to the activity downtown because McMahon had BLM messaging on his van and the victims had been at a Trump rally. Everybody I talked to agreed that peaceful protest is a uniquely American right. What they don't always agree on is the definition of that term. In downtown Bakersfield, Robert Price, 17 News.
And 17 News did reach out for comment to protest organizers, but we have not heard back so far.
Working in the spirit of the Golden Empire, this is 17 News at Sunrise.
The 17 News at Sunrise podcast is a production of KGET and Nexstar Media Group. For more on all of the headlines in today's show, head to kget.com.